So the other day I went to see The Awakening. It's a film which has been made by the BBC, and it is essentially been touted as one in a long line of classic British ghost stories. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I love a good ghost story, and I also love the BBC's adaptations of some famous ghost stories. So I was really excited to see what the BBC would do in terms of in terms of cinema, away from the small screen. Many of you may also know that The Haunting is probably about my favourite horror film of all time. So that shows you, ghost stories, haunted house genre, that's really my thing. So the film stars Rebecca Hall and Dominic West. Rebecca Hall plays a character called Florence Cathcart. The film is set just after the First World War, in 1921, and Florence Cathcart, as well as millions of other people in the United Kingdom, are suffering from the loss and grief that the First World War caused. She has in fact lost someone very, very close to her. That grief has then turned into her exploration of the supernatural. The difference here is that she wants to debunk, she wants to disprove that the supernatural is there at all. So the film sets Florence Cathcart up as this sort of 1920s James Randi type character who is going to seances and mediums and trying to prove that they are con artists and talking nonsense and trying to prey upon the grief of others. She's then met by a man called Robert Mallory, who claims that in a boarding school that he works in, there is in fact a real ghost. She at first dismisses it as nonsense, and eventually her interest is perked and she decides to go and investigate this. This involves her going to this boarding school, which sits in the middle of this massive estate, so it has this feeling of being very remote, and she is going to get to the bottom of these supposedly ghostly events. The backdrop to the story of why she's going there is the fact that a young boy has recently died at the school, and a number of photographs going back years seem to show that there is this ghostly spirit of a previous student of the school doing the rounds. So Florence Cathcart comes up with these very sort of scientific, very sound and rational explanations for what is going on, but as the film progresses we obviously see that things are not quite what they seem. While she's stuck there, or rather while she's put herself into that situation, we are presented with a number of interesting characters. There is the sort of head maid who helps look after the school, and she is a big fan of Florence Cathcart. She's a big fan of the the approach to try and disprove the supernatural. Robert Mallory himself is the sort of love interest for Florence Cathcart as she tries to get over her grief, and we're presented with a teacher who is rather brutal in the way that he disciplines children, and a sort of handyman that works on the estate as well, who we find out skulked out of going and fighting in the First World War, and he's dealing with the shame of that. So we have a bunch of interesting characters. So that's as far as we'll go with it. Don't want to ruin it, but I will probably do a spoiler section at the end of this. I was really disappointed. I was disappointed, I went in really expecting something to be really sort of grab me and grab my interest, and it doesn't take a lot in terms of ghost stories to grab my interest. Just the fact that something is seated within the ghost story genre, that is enough to hold my interest normally. But I found myself my attention wandering at places during The Awakening, and a lot of people are going to disagree with this because the reviews have been fantastic for the film. and a lot of people are really touting this as a really great classic entry within the ghost story genre, and especially within the haunted house genre. But I found myself constantly pining for the classics within the genre when I was watching it, not least The Innocents, which the film shares much with. The setting, the children, you know, the fact that it's a period piece, the relationship that Florence Cathcart has with some of the children at the school is reminiscent of a sort of governess at times, you know. And I found myself also, you know, really wanting to go home and watch The Haunting. It made me want to go and watch something else, and that's not a great thing. Is it badly made? No, it's actually really well made. That's again the annoying thing. It is well made, it is well shot. The actors are superb in this film. They are absolutely brilliant. They really are. Every single actor in this film is great. I think the big letdown for the film for me is that if you're going to sell something like this, there has to be, within any ghost story, a sense of impending doom, a sense of dread. There has to be a sense of an ethereal eeriness throughout the whole piece. It has to be there constantly, and it just wasn't there really. I didn't find the film creepy. Sure, there are a couple of jump out scares, but if you watch the classic ghost story films, very, very, very rarely do they actually have these modern jump out scares where something is presented quickly to the camera and there's a loud bang. Now, it works. I jumped in my seat a couple of times, you know, but it's getting to be a bit of a cheap trick. And within the context of a ghost story, which is supposed to be exploring human nature along the way, supposed to be very atmospheric, the idea of jump cuts, just not jump cuts, sort of like jump out moments, just really, you know, I think they don't blend with that type of film. And if you are going to have them, it was obvious in some places, or it at least appeared to me, you know, that there are sort of CG effects as well. They are minimum, and I think the filmmakers have attempted to make something which is more or less a sort of, you know, your classic ghost story. I think they have attempted to do it. It's just that it didn't hold my attention, and it just wasn't creepy enough as we were going. It kind of reminded me of watching John Carpenter's The Ward in places, you know, like, I liked The Ward, you know, there were a couple of creepy, scary moments in that film, but there really wasn't, you know, that sense of dread wasn't there throughout, so it didn't leave as much of an imprint on me. And certainly with The Awakening it didn't. Now, the human side of the story, some people may become really enthralled in, because it is well done, as far as because of the performances, and because it's in that setting of, you don't get a lot of films which study the aftermath of the First World War, and this film does do that. It does attempt to do that. It does attempt to study grief, and it also has a rather open-ended conclusion. It tries to be ambiguous in places. I don't really want to ruin it for anyone, in case, because a lot of people have loved this film and you might go and love it, and I would say it's better made than 99% of the horror films that you see. It's better made than it, but I just didn't find it entirely effective. So yeah, to recap, performance is great, direction good, everything was good about the film, but it just didn't work for me, and that was the problem. It's still worth a watch, but I would go into it without the huge expectations which the reviews have been putting on people. Okay, so now I'm going to just talk slightly about the sort of spoiler aspects of the film. So if you haven't watched the film, go away and watch it and come back if you want and watch this video. Okay, so now major spoilers, you have been warned. This film does have some twists and turns in it. The problem I had with the twists, there were two. There was one which wasn't really that obvious, but there was another which was really obvious. In fact, the first second that little boy appeared on screen, and spoke to Florence Cathcart, I said to myself, oh, Sixth Sense, you know, a reversal of the Sixth Sense. That boy, the boy's dead. The boy's a ghost. You know, so I was sitting there really unimpressed when they revealed that, because it was like, well, you kind of signposted it. Now maybe the director meant to do that, because there's a second twist straight after it, about the fact that Florence used to live in that house, and she has forgotten this, and she was through a traumatic event, and that the boy is actually like her sort of like, I think, half brother, or step brother. Now it's, I just didn't really sort of feel that the twist endings just didn't completely work for me, and I felt that they again, it was like they were the content of the film, but the whole point of a ghost story is that regardless whether you have a twist ending or not, or a big reveal, you don't have to have one. It should be creepy throughout, and it just sort of wasn't, you know. So that's what I thought about The Awakening. What did you guys think? Have you been to see it? Go and check it out, because it is worth a watch, but it just didn't work for me. But I will watch it again, because I always try to give a film, no matter how much I hate it, and I didn't hate this one actually. I didn't hate this at all. Actually, it was okay, but that's all it was. It was just okay. And so I will, at the very least, watch this film one more time, probably when it comes out in DVD. I will check it out, and who knows, I might change my opinion. That has happened to me before, and I'll do a video about when that has happened to me in the future, like sort of films that I've changed my opinion about as we go along. But anyway, so what did you guys think about it? And that's about all from me. So hope you're all doing well, and I'll speak to you all soon.